Made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own legal independent advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Item 2.0, approval of today's agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, we would like to flip 6.1 and 6.2 under regular agenda.
Okay, I've got that noted.
And please insert a presentation on Second Avenue. It's a presentation, it's a non-voting item under other items at the end, please.
Understood. Anything else?
Move to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
The first and second, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 2.0 is passed. Item 3.0, approval of meeting minutes from October 8th, 2025. Any comments? Do we have a motion? September 8th. Oh. First, we have a second.
Second.
The first and second, any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3.0 is passed. So at this time, we'll have public comment. Keep comments to 2 minutes or less. Each person presenting will be expected to offer new information on an agenda item germane to today's meeting that has not been made previously. Once the public hearing has been closed, no additional comments will be heard unless the public hearing is officially reopened. To Councilman Taylor, welcome him to our commission, and Councilman Cookman. Any other council members in the house? Okay. Councilman Taylor, we'll start with you, if you don't mind coming up. State your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon Taylor, Councilman District 21. Good to see you all. Hey, Lisa. Wanted to talk about, I think it's number 5.1, 5.0, I'm not sure, RPP. So looking to give some neighbors some relief here in my district. Been dealing with this for nearly a decade now. There's nightclubs that are in this area where we're removing parking from the neighbors with the traffic. There's a number of issues. We've had a number of times where emergency vehicles couldn't get down the streets, and it then increases the flow of calls to MMPD that I don't think are the most appropriate calls to MMPD for this. And so when we think about limiting the parking and increasing activity for neighbors, this is what I'm looking to do. And so, and then just giving some relief. There's a number of events that happen. Of course, you guys know or may not know, we had Tennessee State University's homecoming this week, and that gave us a huge bottleneck on both these two roads. We continue to have events, working to kind of manage that in a different way. But now the best way to find relief for the community members is to limit the parking and who can park there, specifically with us approving limitations in parking in the city a few years ago. And so this has created an additional problem because now we have these venues turning their parking into additional party space, which holds additional capacity, which brings additional people. And so we're looking to do that on 10th Avenue North between Coffee and 11th Avenue North between Coffee and Buchanan to do that relief. So that's all that I have. Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Next we'll have Jay Verne. Please come forward, Mr. Verne, Mr. and Mrs. Verne.
Can I wait until my boss leaves?
Are you Mr. Verne?
I am, but I was going to comment after.
we're kind of going in the order of the sign-in. Who's your boss?
Dave Pomeroy?
Mr. Pomeroy, would you like to come first? Come on up.
Absolutely.
I believe that this has been emailed to all of the commission members, but this is a petition with 804 signatures, and it's currently at 850 and counting. We just launched the petition on Friday, and it's
I'm sorry, Mr. Pomeroy. If you could turn your mic on, state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Yes, will do. Dave Pomeroy, 48-year Nashville resident and president of the Musicians Union, 11 Music Circle North. I'd like to make a statement speaking out against the parking initiative for Music Row. Despite the many changes our city has seen over the past decade, Music Row is still on the cutting edge of what makes Nashville unique in the entertainment world, and it remains a vital business-oriented area of our city. Union offices, recording studios, music publishing companies, record labels, artist managers, booking agents, and many other music-oriented businesses are located in this area. For example, the Nashville Musicians Association has more than 2,000 dues-paying members and 24 parking spaces in our lot, with 5 spaces out front that are used constantly with frequent turnover. To unilaterally impose paid parking all over this area with no input from the businesses of Music Row is extremely short-sighted and will be severely damaging to our industry's ability to do business. I have spoken to dozens of shareholders in this area, and no one I have spoken to has had any input or warning from NDOT that these changes were coming, despite numerous claims to the contrary. At the previous commission meeting, NDOT representatives stated that they first make a decision and then engage the community afterwards. That is completely backwards and shows a lack of understanding of what makes our city unique. Nashville is known worldwide for its organic system of respect between creatives and employers, which is what made Nashville into Music City. The music industry creates millions of dollars of revenue for Nashville every year, and over the past 75 years, Music Row has played a very significant role in the increased revenue Nashville sees from the entertainment industry, music fans, and the tourist industry. This unilateral move by NDOT feels like punishment for the very same businesses and people that made Nashville into Music City and should not be approved by Metro Nashville government. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Mr. Verne?
Sure.
Please turn on the microphone and state your name for the record. There you
go. Jay Verne. I have a business on Music Row. I've been there since 91. I have driven up and down 17th Avenue South, 16th. I calculated about 46,000 times. So I think I know the street probably better than anybody here in this building, maybe except for Dave Pomeroy. And I have watched the changes over the 35 years I have been there. And it's just one thing after another. And this parking initiative is really, really going to punish all the businesses that are on Music Row. Like Dave said, I cannot say it better than what he said. The city, it's not that they owe us anything, but it would not be the same city without us musicians. I mean, we go to work. We don't have benefits like the council members have. We basically have nothing. We play for tips that we get charged $20 to park downtown. It's really, really frustrating because we do make the city go. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kevin Warner. Please turn on the microphone and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes. Thanks.
Kevin Warner, 18th Avenue resident. In the 7 years that I've lived there, almost daily, I see scores of Vanderbilt students, construction workers, people that do not live there, parking sometimes all day long, because you just develop an eye for this. Until the enforcement mechanism improves, it's still going to happen. Neighbors of mine and people who live on 17th Avenue and 16th Avenue say it's a battle, it's a struggle, okay? I do not like paying for city services, in this case, the curb, and giving it away to businesses who refuse to pay their employees. If the honky-tonks and the hospitality gang we just heard about from Mr. Pomeroy were generous enough and cared about their workers, then they would pay them so they could park for a lousy $10 a day, which is what it would cost under these proposals. Okay? But they don't do that. They want everybody else to pay. Oh, we built Nashville on our backs. Well, that was great 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But at the Music Row Vision Plan steering committee meetings, it's in 2019 when many things were discussed, it was specifically stated in a survey that was done of the music businesses, those that are leaving left because it's too expensive to stay in Music Row. And that trend has continued. There is something called the New Rock Nashville coming to North Nashville, a live entertainment industry facility that's going to be on 40 acres. I would encourage the musicians to go there and ply their craft, okay? Maybe they live nearby. But the bottom line is, excuse me, everybody I've talked to in the part of Music Row that I know best says the same thing. It's a pain in the neck to park. And we loved it when those parking restriction signs went up, but until we get more enforcement, there's people just park there, you know, I'm telling you, all day long. They're getting city resources for free. I hate that. Thank you all.
Thank you for your comments. Frank Rowan. Please state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Frank Rowand. I'm here to oppose both 6.4 and 7.1. They're different but very similar in very nearby neighborhoods. From the item in the agenda today, the Traffic and Parking Commission staff analysis of October 13th, 2025 memorandum, which is from the Nashville Department of Transportation, it does not provide any actual analysis in the quote-unquote analysis paragraphs of the proposals. Provides no statement of need, no impact analysis, no cost and benefit data, anything else I'd expect in an analysis. On that basis alone, I ask this commission to reject the proposals until this information is properly provided so people can respond appropriately. In addition, there's no utilization data provided for the proposed parking spots. There's no utilization data provided for existing nearby paid parking spots. It's very hard to do analysis without this data. Also, there's inadequate information provided in proposed features such as hours and rates. I understand the previous last month's meeting, some of that was discussed, but it's not officially in the proposal. An additional item, there has been discussion about public engagement. I can't speak as to whether people were notified or not, but a much bigger concept. I feel that the public notification concept is extremely narrow in the way that it's used in this group. It does not include the actual users of the parking spots if you're not a neighborhood resident or not a business in the neighborhood. But it impacts all people who park in the area, which is many residents of Nashville. I myself park in many different areas of Nashville. I'm impacted by many of these different proposals and have absolutely no voice in them other than coming to these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Aretha Carruthers. Please state your name for the
Aretha
record.
Carruthers.
And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm a resident of 10th Avenue, been there for 30 years. Out of the 30 years, I have dealt with issues with parking for these clubs. Our street becomes a one-way street when the clubs do open. I am a person that was hit by someone going to the club and the emergency couldn't get to me. They had to walk to my house to give me treatment because of the traffic. We have handicap parking spots. They will come and park in the handicap parking spots. We put cones out. They'll move the cones out of the handicap parking spots. So basically, we've had our cars damaged. We can't park, so we have to either park somewhere else where it's not lighted up, where we can get to our houses. The amount of traffic we got is you're hearing the cars flying up and down the street. We don't have that when the clubs are not open. When the clubs are not open, the street is quiet. And when it comes to a one-way street, we have to get out there and direct traffic to back up on Coffee Street so that they're not backing up on Buchanan into traffic to try to get somebody to let the other person come through. So we just need some help because we've been doing this for 8 years. I've been with the commander, I've been with Brandon trying to get something. We've talked to the owners of the clubs. They just tell us, call and have the cars towed. We can't have them towed. Metro will not tow them for us. So we're at the mercy of trying to get some help. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jill Moody. Please state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jill Moody. I work for the Nashville Songwriters Association. I wanted to oppose the extension of the Music Row parking where music is made daily by songwriters and musicians in this town. We just wanted you guys to realize that NSAI is an organization that nurtures the careers of aspiring songwriters and artists who eventually become the individuals behind the brand Music City USA. Consider that our monthly dues at NSAI are $20, and most songwriters make weekly visits to our building. The cost of their parking, if they stay more than 4 hours, eventually starts to outweigh the cost of our membership, making them no longer want to come utilize our songwriters' rooms and our studio where we put on workshops to help nurture and encourage these unsigned songwriters. We've received numerous complaints from our members that they no longer can come to the office without incurring parking fees up to $20. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. It's really impacting our business and impacting our workshops that we work really hard to put on every Tuesday night for these songwriters. Thank you.
Really appreciate your comments. Rich Eckhart. Please state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Rich Eckhart, opposing the parking on Music Row. All of the businesses that operate on Music Row already pay a substantial property tax to the city, and a percentage of that, of course, is relegated to road maintenance. The meter revenue is not needed. We all have clients, members, and workers that come and go throughout the day. Sometimes their visits take 5 minutes, and sometimes they may be in the building for 8 hours. We don't need to encourage turnover on Music Row with meters. Our business models are different. A great number of the people that park in the streets in this area are musicians recording albums in studios or rehearsing their band at a location that doesn't have enough real estate to provide enough parking spots for employees as well as their visitors. Imposing these paid parking spots would be the equivalent of putting a parking meter in your driveway and expecting your friends and family to pay to park when they visit you.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Hall. Please state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Mason. My name is Manon Hall and Commissioners. I'm here to speak in favor of items 6.4 and 7.1, the proposal for managed paid parking in the Music Row area. We must move beyond the idea that parking on our public street should be free. In a vibrant, dense, and economically critical area like Music Row, free parking is not a benefit, it's a massive hidden cost. The fundamental reason to price parking here is to address scarcity and congestion. When the price for a public resource is zero, demand exceeds supply. And the consequence is what we see now. Drivers constantly circling the block, wasting fuel, creating traffic jams, and generating unnecessary pollution. This cruising for a free spot undermines the quality of life for residents and the efficiency of businesses. Pricing parking is simply using a powerful tool to manage demand and ensure that the curb space is functional. This proposal is designed to solve that problem with an unprecedented level of affordability through the economy zone. This zone's rate of just $1 per hour with a maximum cap of only $10 for 10 hours is a deliberate strategy to keep parking accessible and affordable for the very community that works here. This is not about maximizing revenue, it's about optimizing performance. The goal is to always have 1 or 2 spaces open on every block, making it easy and predictable for musicians, riders, and students to find a spot without adding to traffic. By adopting this plan, we convert a chaotic free-for-all public asset into a managed, reliable system. It stabilizes the neighborhood's parking situation and ensures that our valuable curb space serves the economic needs of Music Row. I urge you to approve the paid parking. Thanks.
Appreciate your comments. Councilmember Coopin. Please state your name for the record, and you have 1 minute and 58 seconds.
Well, my speech was 2 minutes, so that's going to be difficult, but I'll make it work. Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to first say that this is outside of my district, but very, very adjacent, and I'm speaking really as a former music industry professional, as an intern, a musician, a business person. I spent quite a bit of time on Music Row. And you've heard today from a number of different entities and trusted establishments in the music industry. And one of the things that was spoken about was engagement and discussion. And I'm currently facing an issue in my district where 2-hour no parking signs went up and neighbors didn't know that that was happening. And so we're having to backtrack. And I just think that we're Music City and we should be protecting our musicians. And I, again, understand scarcity and understand making sure that everyone can use the right of way. And that's an important conversation to have. But what I'm hearing from the folks here today is that the engagement isn't there yet. The public buy-in and conversation isn't there yet. And so for me, I wish at least it could be deferred for further discussion. You know, I've talked to some stakeholders in the area. There perhaps are some streets that do make sense for paid parking, but also making sure that, you know, a songwriter that comes for a co-write, somebody, an intern, a Belmont intern who's trying to just have an internship and to charge them, even though it's maybe 12 or 15 bucks a day or whatever that becomes with the hours of parking, that's a burden on many. So I think we just need to make sure that as we do this, we are protecting the music industry, we're protecting musicians, without whom we wouldn't be the city that we are. So I encourage y'all to look at that and then defer it for further conversation. I think that, you know, obviously we rarely get something where everybody's happy with it, but these trusted organizations coming out and speaking against it are what drove me to come speak about it, because I trust them and I trust their view and vision of that area, and it's something that we should protect. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. With that, we'll move on to item 5.0, approval of the consent agenda. Item 5.1, CD 21, authorization for new residential permit parking on 10th Avenue North and 11th Avenue North between Coffee Street and Buchanan Street, effective 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7 days a week, requested by Councilmember Taylor. Does this item need to be pulled out for discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about it.
Okay. We will move that down to the regular agenda, since that's the only item. Do we have a motion to move that item to the regular agenda?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 5.1 will be moved to the regular agenda. Next item, 6.0, regular agenda. We'll start with 5.1, CD 21, authorization for new residential permit parking on 10th Avenue North and 11th Avenue North between Coffee Street and Buchanan Street, effective 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7 days a week, requested by Council Member Taylor. Emmy, would you got any comments on this, or would you like us to start with questions? How do we want to do this? Do you have specific questions, Commissioner? Why don't we just start there? We'll open the floor for questions from the Commissioner.
Okay. I mean, my questions are, there's two main issues that I'd like to discuss. The first one is, I'm not sure that we can approve it without it following what's in the code. And so it might be a question towards legal to verify if they think that we have the authority to do this. My concern is not that there might be an issue or not, it's just that the way that the code is written is that there shall be a set of petitions that 75% of residents are signing on to in the affected area. Not saying that there are not people that are affected, but it doesn't, I don't think we have that. So I don't know how we can.
So the question is, procedurally, have we followed the steps to get it to the point that we can approve it?
Yeah, and if that is a requirement and we want to defer it so that way we can go and get those petitions signed, so that way, because I believe the way this process works is the petitions are actually what starts the process to actually get the permit for the individual residents. Otherwise, we're just creating a scenario where there is no parking on the street for anybody unless they then go apply in the future.
Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Emmanuel Matias with NDOT. So I just wanted to say that we do support the request for the RPP at this area. However, we would like to request a deferral.
Any other questions from the commission?
Thank you, Chair. Hearing the request or recommendation by NDOT for a deferral, I would also ask for some clarification on the residential permit process and a couple items when, assuming you all will come back with some more analysis for us so that we can have a better understanding of what really we're being asked to consider and to vote on. I think conceptually, I would support a permit. I'm just not sure what we're being asked to vote on. So some of my questions would be, how many spaces are we referring to? Would this provision or permit allow for parking on both sides of the street or just one side of the street? Listening to the comments about it often being a one-way or having to direct traffic. So we're talking about one or two, both sides of the street. Another question would be, is their parking currently free or paid at this point within this block or blocks? Are there any other are there any other parking permits in surrounding streets in the same neighborhood? And what impact might that have on access to the curb? And then my last question would be relative to, I believe there is consideration coming forward about just looking at the overall residential parking permit policy, whether that's coming through council or transportation and infrastructure. But if they're assuming that there is some new policy being considered, would this align with that? Those are my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Councilman.
Sure. And to address that, I know that there is a lot of discussion. I don't think there's a public proposal about changes to residential permit parking, how the program works, what the fees are. But I believe it's forthcoming. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it by the end of the year, based on the rhythm it was moving at when I was still chairing the relevant committee at council. And this seems like there's a lot of parallels here to Arrington and Hancock Street. In my district, in District 5, where we had some really successful businesses open on adjoining streets, and then there was a lot of conflict between residents and those businesses, and it was materializing in different ways. And ultimately, through a lot of discussion, neighbors ended up opting for the resident permit parking. But I do think that discussion of the trade-offs and the petitioning process of collecting signatures kind of made sure that even the folks that were opposed to it knew what was being proposed and what changes were coming. So it sounds like this is an area where it's probably the right move, but if absent the petition process, I don't know how we make sure that people know what's being proposed. So I hate to not be with a colleague on something, but I think I would support a deferral today, and then hopefully this will come back before us with petition behind it, and we can kind of have that assurance that outreach has been done, that the discussions have been had, and people understand the trade-offs. And when you have a birthday party, it's kind of annoying because you have 12 cars need to park on your street, and it's a resident permit only. So just to make sure that people in these areas, and I don't doubt that the council member has done that outreach, but that the petition is kind of a way that we formalize it and make sure that folks have been reached out to. So I would probably support a deferral today.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Since we know that there's an issue with traffic backing up onto Buchanan, what's the feasibility of making some of these streets one-way to make it so that it's a kind of a natural flow and you don't have cars potentially butting into each other?
That is something that can be considered. The time frame for that study would be longer than the petition process for RPP, but if the council member wishes to have one-way flow on these streets, that's certainly something the department can examine.
Any other questions? I would like, point of clarification, there is an existing RPP policy in place that we're currently utilizing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If we successfully defer this item, how much time would you all need to come back?
Probably next month.
1 month. And then another question in the analysis, it was requested to be approved by the commission due to quality of life issues for the residents due to active nightlife from nearby nighttime businesses. Pedestrian safety, of course, is paramount to this commission. Are you aware of any specific quality of life or safety issues that have arose, or is that something that, deferring this is one thing to get more information and things there, but want to ensure that safety is in place and that we have acknowledged and or addressed with MPD or the appropriate authorities or what have you to address that specific concern?
So the quality of life issue, we have identified those for this area. There's multiple that apply from the list that we usually have for qualifications of RPP. One of them would be the substantial use of neighborhood curb space by commuters and other non-residents for parking. That's one of them. Second one is quality of life issue, such as but not limited to trash from other vehicles, disruption during evening after 10 p.m., or public service disruption. There's another one, proximity of neighborhood to major parking attractors, which would be the business, including employment centers, retail stores, restaurants, universities, hospital, and tourist attractions. I'm just reading out to what we have here. And the traffic noise, safety concerns caused by vehicles cruising or parking, as it was mentioned earlier also by the lady.
I just wanted to ensure that, we weren't, in deferring this, there wasn't anything imminent that we needed to address that you all are addressing, but it sounds like we've done our homework and research to understand and double check the warrant for the RPP. Okay, so with that, just to recap, the commission is looking for information and data just around number of spaces, the extent of what we're going to vote on and implement with what we're doing. We need to reaffirm that the RPP ordinance and policy has been shared and released, which it sounds like it has, and then just making sure we're going through the proper protocol procedures to enforce or put in place RPP for this area. Commissioner?
If this actually goes into place, it's not going to eliminate the fact that cars are still going to be coming over there trying to find places to park. So is there any consideration or has there been any contact with the businesses to try to find ways to get them to, I don't know, look for places for people to be able to park? Or is that within your preview?
We spoke to the council member and to the neighbors. But as far as the parking, we're trying to make sure that the residents are safe. That's our priority. And then those streets that are in this petition, in this RPP, or the 10th Avenue and 11th Avenue, those are the most affected. So we're focusing on that, and we'll have to focus on that other part when we're able to.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to defer this for 1 month?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any questions or comment on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5.1 has been deferred for 1 month. Thank you, Amy and Brennan. Now we're going to shift to item 6.2, consideration of Metro Bill BL 2025-956 and proposed substitute ordinance requested by NDOT and the Metro Clerk's Office. I believe if this has been handed out and shared with all the commissioners. It's pretty straightforward. Emmy, anything that you want to comment or add before we open it up to the commissioners?
I would only mention that we've been in close communication with the council member who proposed this ordinance change, and so the result of what you've seen in front of you is the collaboration between us and the council member, and the final version that we'd like to propose and have approved today.
And it's Ms. Tasha Ellis, I'm assuming. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Cornatic?
All right, since we had this discussion before, I just want to make sure that I understand our process within this, where we're providing a recommendation on the original ordinance and then another recommendation on the proposed substitute. Our recommendation will become, it's instantaneously approved based on the moment we make it and approve it. Is that correct? Towards legal?
I defer to legal for that answer.
Once you vote to recommend to council an approval of an ordinance or disapproval of an ordinance, your vote is binding, essentially. It's in effect as soon as you vote.
Okay, because they're having a second reading tomorrow, and they are discussing it in committee today. That's correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
At 5 o'clock today, right? So as soon as it gets through here, it's good to go to there.
And we're going to inform the Metro Clerk's Office today of your votes.
And our approval and our disapproval just changes the vote threshold at council. So it'd be a 27 vote with a disapproved recommendation.
That I'm unsure of. I need to look that up.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I think whether we approve it or disapprove it, that's outside of what we're looking at here, but
Just to understand the
Gotcha.
context of what happens after we discuss it, it's going to go to council. That threshold, what they have is different.
Any other questions? Commissioner Gibbs?
Commissioner Kornatik, would you like me to read the charter section? Just so everybody's aware.
Well, I mean, the clarification, I mean, are we thinking about, is it going to sway the way we vote, or are we just?
No, it should not affect the way you vote. You vote however you think
Right.
is best,
Right.
based on the information.
But there are
you're given.
guidelines, and there's something in place to where if we vote, if we disapprove it or approve it, then
Yes. Pursuant to Section 11.905 of the Metro Charter, I'm just going to read the section because it's pretty short and it explains everything. Where a proposed ordinance affects traffic control or use of streets by traffic and is not accompanied at introduction by a favorable recommendation of the Traffic and Parking Commission, a copy thereof shall be promptly delivered by the Metropolitan Clerk to the Commission, and the same shall not be passed on second reading until the recommendation of said Commission with respect to the proposal has been received, or 30 days have elapsed without such recommendation. No ordinance which affects traffic control or the use of streets by traffic and which has been disapproved by the Commission shall be finally passed or become effective unless it shall have been adopted by a 2/3 majority of the whole membership of the Metropolitan Council, and also then be approved by the Metropolitan Mayor with a 3/4 majority of the whole membership of the Metropolitan Council required to override a veto. So if you disapprove an ordinance that affects traffic control or use of the streets, then the ordinance shall not pass unless it's adopted by 2/3 of the whole membership of the council. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Chair. So on that, the 30-day shot clock, as we often refer to it, is so because we don't meet. When did that 30 days begin for the purpose of this legislation and this Commission's consideration of it?
I believe it started, the 30-day clock started at the first reading. On first reading, because the council member's bill was not presented to Traffic and Commission before it was submitted. So I believe that 30-day clock probably started maybe when, at that time. I would say on first reading, that day of first reading, which I'm not sure what the date was. I'm sorry. I'd have to pull out the calendar.
This Commission's recommendation would not be binding then?
Had the council member come to you with the ordinance and submitted the ordinance for your recommendation prior to first reading, then it would have been binding at that time. But because it was not submitted on first reading, now we're between first and second reading is taking place tomorrow. So I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, right? So we're in the 30-day window, I think.
Okay, because I would think it would be when the legislation is presented to the Commission. I mean, I don't think it would be the Commission has to go comb through agendas and request that things be sent over to us. I think that would be the sponsor or the clerk.
Correct. It says shall be promptly delivered by the clerk to the Commission.
So it's the clerk who makes the determination that, oh, this legislation needs to go before the Commission, and we'll get it over to them.
Correct.
And so when did that occur?
That occurred, to my knowledge, after first reading. I'm looking to my colleague from MnDOT over here. I believe it was after first reading, or at Transportation and Infrastructure Committee before first reading. So approximately 2 weeks ago.
Okay. 2 weeks ago would have been the end of the shot clock? Because first reading was 9/2?
No, first reading should have been 10/2, or 2 weeks ago.
No, this on first reading on August 5th. It was approved with a substitute on 9/2, or substituted on 9/2, and then deferred.
Well, I think to the chair's point earlier, my question really related to whether it's feasible to do a deferral. Like, do we lose our ability to make a recommendation on this if we do a deferral? Do we have to make a recommendation today was essentially my question. That's why I was asking about the specifics of when that shot clock began, and we don't seem to have a clear picture of that, so maybe we should just proceed.
I mean, it's not, going off of the 9/2, I would imagine that that's the clerk providing notice to the rest of the government like if, without an actual email that says, I sent this over on this day at this time, we're 3 weeks past 30 days, so anything we do today is already a disapproved bill from us to council, so it's on you all to get to 27 votes. We can do it, it's non-binding if we want to discuss it.
So it's on the agenda for us to review and vote on. So we've got to review and vote on it. Mr. Smith?
I can answer your question. I received an email from the Metropolitan clerk on 9/3 asking to place this before the commission. The 9/3 date was the day after the September meeting had already been publicly noticed. So this meeting is the first available meeting that the commission could hear this and vote on it and have it be public noticed.
So it sounds like this commission has done everything we can to get it on the first available meeting. I think I would like to redirect any questions from the commissioners around the substance of what's before us, and then propose a motion in either yay or nay. So are there any questions with regards to the language change and the substitution change within this ordinance that's been proposed?
Thank you.
Councilman, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also a commissioner. We had a lot of discussion in committee, and I don't know if this has made it to the floor at council yet, but, I definitely have less concern about the substitute version than I did with it as filed. It's a couple of things that I wanted to ask about. And this was in the code before, but it seems like this code is very restrictive around trailers. So like something that you might move like landscaping equipment around the city in. The way that this reads would be like if you pulled up in front of someone's home and unloaded landscaping equipment and then mowed their yard and then loaded your equipment back up and drove away, during that period while you were mowing their yard, you would be in violation of the code. Is that an accurate read on the language that's in the substitute? I don't know if we move to consider the substitute or draft Metro Council a proposed substitute ordinance. Yes. So is that how you interpret that?
Not necessarily. This is more so about somebody leaving trailers behind for multiple days or for extended period of time. We still have discretion of the agent of the government or our enforcement team to go to any situation and assess it. And if it seems like somebody's just mowing their lawn, that's not going to be a cause of concern. If somebody was to leave something overnight for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that's when we start to go back to this particular code sentence.
Thank you. And I understand that our park and enforcement folks are going to exercise common sense, but we do have a lot more Nashvillians encountering parking enforcement in their neighborhoods now, that we have like a professionalized Department of Transportation that has a dedicated enforcement team, and it used to, it would pretty much have to rise to the level of getting MNPD's attention for some of these code provisions to be enforced. So, I've just heard from a lot of folks about like, I've always parked in that direction on my street, and then I got a ticket for it. And it's like, well, you're going to be seeing more of that because that's a safety issue, and our enforcement folks are out looking at it. But that's just where having language that covers so much routine activity out in the community, like such as landscaping. I have a difficult time kind of recodifying that in the modern era with the level of enforcement that we have. If it said, if you leave it overnight for 3 nights, then it's definitely prohibited. Even if it just said purely overnight, like the way we do later with the liquid vehicle, I forgot what we call them, but those, you can have them on the street, but you can't leave them overnight. And I would feel more comfortable about doing that with trailers if it was an overnight restriction, even if just one night, rather than, sort of prohibiting them being parked on the streets around the clock. That's something that I'm still having a pretty hard time with here.
I'm just going to answer with, I think this was reviewed from our end. We were hoping, we were discussing this, and our decision was that the prohibition, the sentence that states the prohibition excluding standard passenger automobiles, minivans, SUVs, and standard size pickup trucks would help along those lines. Because, you know, if somebody's has their own LLC or a contractor that is mowing the lawn, it's usually not going to be a huge commercial truck. And again, there would be differentiation between what is something that is temporary, what is something that is permanent. And we also have separate codes that state what is an abandoned vehicle, what is an illegal vehicle, so we could always defer to those as well.
Yeah, and there's this language, unless otherwise authorized by the Metropolitan government. I mean, is there some way that can we put out like a policy bulletin that says, hey, landscapers, like, you're fine? Like, is there a way to sort of codify that where we're not just counting on, I know that our parking enforcement people, like I said, are going to exercise common sense when they're out in the field, but just, is there a way that we could bend that piece to cover my concern unless otherwise authorized? I mean, how could we authorize that? Is there any way to do that?
The policy would be the way to do it.
And that policy would, like, in the code somewhere, or like in one of y'all's manuals? Like,
there would be a departmental policy, and that would include similar things. Food trucks would maybe have their own restrictions or allowances of some sorts, and that would be the same in scenarios like this, or contractors, or somebody has, I don't know, whatever. I mean, pick your poison. There's going to be 1,000 scenarios. We can't really, we think about as many as we can. But there's always going to be something that pops up a year from now, and we'll just have to add to the policy and say, hey, this is what we do moving forward. And we'll do the right thing and adjust to make sure that everybody's treated fairly.
Yeah, just, something to cover your handymans, your contractors, people that are using, smaller trailers. I'm not talking about like 20-foot, just small utility trailers that people use to get around the city and get work done. I think we need a way to explicitly make sure that we're not capturing those here would be my request.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
Just to piggyback on that, I don't know how you get around landscape. Like, it says construction equipment or landscape equipment is prohibited on any public right-of-way within the jurisdiction at any time. So it's going to go back and forth. I don't know what a standard size pickup truck is in our code. I don't see it defined anywhere. So we're going to create an extra section of a policy that's going to describe what a standard size pickup truck, when, like, there's some pickup trucks that are very large, that are bigger than a 20-foot standard pickup truck. And we allow for parking of those almost anywhere too. So now
it's a very good point. And so this is just a small section of the overall revision that we are looking into. And the new revision of 1240 parking code has footnotes and multiple other notes that kind of clarify literally what you just said, and to ensure that, because the current code, the way it's written, it is a little outdated. So we are outlining what is a right-of-way, what is a personal pickup truck, what is this and what is that, and it is going to be outlined there, and some of these concerns will be addressed in the codes prior to the 180 and 190.
Okay, yeah, because you're also able to tow any of these violators out of the right-of-way based on this, which seems, again, if you leave your trailer overnight and then you wake up and then your trailer's gone.
Only if it's a safety issue. If it poses an immediate safety to public, then it might be towed. Otherwise, we have a process. We would green sticker the vehicle or the trailer, and then go back after a certain amount of time, see if it has moved, and if it hasn't, then we would initiate a tow. So there's a process for that also.
Yeah. Just seems that it should be written down so people can see it before you go forward. But
if I may add, for things like landscape, construction, any parking in the right-of-way or work that's to be done where you need to park in the right-of-way, traffic control is required to be gotten by that vendor. Or so in the event that a landscaper or a tree removal person or a contractor that needs to do work that needs to park in the street, it is their obligation to provide appropriate traffic control for the time that they're there to avoid any pedestrian safety measures. So, although this may restrict that landscaper or whatnot from pulling off halfway on the side of a 2-lane road, right? It is their responsibility, though, also, if they got to go there to do work, to manage the curb and the right-of-way, and that they have to provide traffic control to allow safe passage. So that is already in place to restrict and or prohibit from just your random landscaper or tree removal person to just park in the street all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on like actively working in the right of way, but the way that this is written is based on like parking it. So like if I have a food truck and I park it in front of my house and leave it there overnight, I'm now in violation. We don't have food truck rules. We still haven't gotten those to work on. We're supposed to have done that at some point over the last year. So this just feels at a rush, but I mean, we're providing a non-binding recommendation either way.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question on, let's see, it would be page 2. For purposes of this section, defining the public right-of-way, it does get very specific in terms of streets, roads, highways, et cetera. Alleys is not listed here as a defined public right-of-way, and my question is, should it be?
It should, and it is in that footer that I just mentioned. There is a further expansion on what the public right-of-way is, and alleys are included in that.
Yes, but could it be added right here?
Where'd you say it was located? Sorry.
It's in the overall version of the code that we are working on.
So not in what we're voting on today? It's not in what we're voting on today?
It doesn't seem to be in this sentence that was just mentioned a second ago.
Before the revision, I did see alley somewhere on the initial one before this rewrite that we just received. But alleys is omitted.
I'd like to point out that alley is defined elsewhere in the code under 1204.010.
.4. I'm sorry, Andrew, where's that?
1204.010.
It's in the Muni code.
Oh.
It's
But
an existing code.
Just to clarify, your question isn't necessarily defining what an alley is. It's based on the fact that it says, for the purposes of this section, public right-of-way is
Includes.
streets, roads, highways,
Right.
avenues, boulevards, bridges, tunnels.
It reads, correct, Commissioner. It reads almost as if alleys are not included. They're exempt from this.
What would be defined under other public ways? Would that be an alley?
I'm sorry, could you?
The
repeat
last
question?
says other public ways dedicated to public use and maintained for general public. I guess, could the alleys fall under that?
It could. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be mentioned, but
Maybe adding.
it does fall under it. And you know, one of the things with alleys is that actually loading and unloading actively in alleys is permitted.
Yeah.
Parking is not permitted.
Gotcha.
So that might, I don't know if that clarifies it, but that's one of the.
So you can't park there anyway, is what you're saying?
But this is all about parking.
Yeah, I'll just,
Go ahead.
sorry,
I'm
I
done.
didn't realize
Thank you.
if I may. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can support the substitute or the underlying bill today because, I mean, of what Commissioner Kornutik brought up, which is like, we're explicitly prohibiting construction equipment, landscape equipment from parking at any time, but then we have this sort of, I'd like to figure out how we're going to authorize the stuff that we're explicitly prohibiting if we're going to come up with some mechanism to do that. That just seems convoluted to me. I also, you know, I would love some clearer language about standard passenger automobiles, minivans, SUVs, and standard-sized pickup trucks because yeah, I feel like that's language that's I see what we're trying to get at there, but I think we could maybe, like what I encouraged the sponsor to rely on was just the US DOT vehicle classes. Almost everything that you're trying to capture, I think, with that line of standard passenger minivans, SUVs, you're trying to capture the US DOT definition of a Class 1 vehicle. And you kind of, there is technical distinctions, 10,000 gross vehicle weight rating, but also you kind of know them when you see them. I think that, I know that there's a concern that enforcement folks couldn't weigh a vehicle, but gross vehicle weight rating is not the actual curb weight of a vehicle based on its load. Gross vehicle weight rating it rolls off the factory line that way. Like the VIN number will tell you that. If you look at the license plate, it's tied to the VIN number, it's tied to the make, model, trim level. It's going to tell you whether that's a Class 1 or a Class 2 or a Class 3 vehicle just from vehicle registration data. So I think the confusion about the trailer and the landscape thing, and then the language around excluded vehicles, I can't square those enough to support this today. I don't know what fellow commission members are going to vote, or then how it will actually affect the discussion at council based on the shot clock and where we are with that, but I don't think I can support the substitute today.
Any other?
Yeah, I just feel like this is, like there's absolutely places where larger vehicles should be allowed to park on the streets. If somebody wants to stop and get a coffee, like this, we've made it illegal for them to do that now. That seems wild to me. They have to find an off-street parking just to get some food and go do something. So we're creating something in the code with a very heavy hammer where previously this was set up in a way like you have volatile liquids. Like that seems like something that is an important thing to keep in the code. You can't stop if you have something that could be dangerous to the public. But if it's just a truck parked there for an hour or two extra beyond loading or unloading, it seems like that if there is space available for it, that should be something we should provide to people. So I'm probably going to vote no on both for our non-binding recommendation.
Any other questions? A couple of clarifications I'd like to ask. On this non-binding, is this, what happens after, when we vote on this, could we defer it to come back for better language and then it becomes binding again? Like what is the process to where whatever input we do have here, it is considered and moved on to the next step?
Well, since Councilmember Ellis's ordinance is on second reading tomorrow night, you could defer, but I don't know if your recommendation would make it anywhere at that point. Also, the 30 days would have passed, and the council can vote without your recommendation at that point. You could, during this meeting, amend the ordinance as you see fit, but it sounds like, I see the council member shaking his head. It sounds like, that is another option. Those are the options. You vote or you don't vote, but the council can at this point proceed because of
Sure,
the fact that more than 30 days have passed.
There's some pretty important and key comments that have been brought up here that I think it would be good for the council to consider. So how could we get those, recommendations and/or things that were brought up here, whether binding or non-binding, where they could get it and say, okay, it failed, but here's some of the reasons why, and maybe some things that they can look at as they're making their determination. Councilman?
Thank you, Chair. So, a lot of council members do watch these meetings, believe it or not. I can also, share, if I make it to the committee meeting at 4, which I have a feeling I won't, I can share kind of what happened here, but also on the floor tomorrow, regardless of what the committee recommends today, I can share that, I would strongly recommend that, folks go look at the discussion and the recommendation from the commission, even if it's not binding. I think folks do look to us because, we have a lot of NDOT support staff here. We tend to only have a council liaison unless it's a special thing at the council. So we really have close interaction with staff in this commission, and folks do look to us for recommendations, even if they're not binding. So I would encourage folks to vote in favor of a motion that you can support on like a policy basis and not worry too much about the specifics that we were talking about earlier of when the shot clock started and all that. So I think it's still useful to make a proper recommendation.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
I'd just make a comment as reading this from the law enforcement perspective, if NDOT's intent is not to write citations for landscape equipment and those sorts of things, and it probably needs to be spelled out a little bit better, because if and when a law enforcement officer is called to one of these and it's not an NDOT representative writing that citation, an officer is going to read this and go, landscape equipment parked, ticket, possibly tow. So I think it probably does need to be cleaned up much better there.
Thanks for that. One other question. On where it states no vehicle should be parked in a manner that leaves less than 12 feet of roadway available for the free movement of vehicular traffic. Explain the situation. What is that, 12 feet behind, 12 feet to left? And coincidentally, I have an employee that lives on a two-way street, and the lawn care person parks, right? And ironically, they park where it prohibits her vision from getting out, right? So like the traffic control piece and, understanding what the parameters around, yeah, we want them to park there and be able to park there to where they don't get a ticket, but there's also responsibility where they don't need to block vision from driveways, walkways, pathways. I've seen trucks and trailers parked up on the sidewalk to kind of get off to the side. So there's, to everybody's kind of point, I think, there's a pedestrian safety piece to this as well with regard to vehicular safety, but we want to leave it broad to where, you just call and they get towed or get ticketed. I referred her to Hub Nashville, but coincidentally, there is a real situation here to where.
To answer your question about the 12 feet, that's already in the existing code under 1240.080, which stipulates that no person shall park any vehicle upon a street in such a manner or under such conditions as to leave available less than 12 feet of width of the roadway for free movement of vehicular traffic.
So 12 feet, okay, so essentially you got to leave a lane. Leave a lane available, but they don't have to manage the traffic, manage the movement of traffic to do that. Right? Or they do?
Is the question
So if I just go park my truck and trailer in the middle of a lane and go do work, do I need to provide cones or anything like that, or can I just?
If you leave more than 12 feet of space, that's considered for you to park legally on the curb of the right of way.
Okay. We need to
It's
clean
like
that
a
up.
parking spot, a free parking space technically.
Even on a 2-lane road?
Well, it depends if there's a double. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? If there's a double yellow line, the 12 feet speaks to that specific lane. If there is no double yellow line,
Gotcha.
for the entire width of the road.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
What if there's no striping? What if there's no striping on the road? It's just the end of the
That's
street?
the width of the road.
Okay. Any other questions?
Chair, I think that's a great call out and a good question. So I know it's a minor detail, but in this case, details do seem to matter, especially when it comes to law enforcement. The 12 feet width, Mr. Smith, I heard you say that's in the code, but it's not on this document. Just says leave less than 12 feet. It's not clear if that's front of the car, vehicle back, or to the side, the width.
Well, it's just a whereas clause, right? That's not part of the actual code that's going in?
Right, but it's an ordinance. Yes. Again, minor detail, but it was enough to ask for us to be confused, so.
And again, this comes from, someone that worked with me, and ironically, the situation's come up, and
Sure.
we've been trying to dig into it. So that specific example kind of applies to where, get it, need to park, get your equipment out, and do work, should be able to do that. But if they leave their vehicle on a double yellow line road, that is not legal or safe without proper traffic control, in my opinion.
And I just want to add one, if you're,
Yes,
okay?
thank you.
Like, the way that this new code is listed, so if it's section B, we are now explicitly prohibiting any type of loading or unloading throughout the entire county unless there's a loading zone. And I've been told multiple times that you all don't have the staff to enforce or to push out loading zones, even downtown. And now we're going to do the entire county and try to do loading zones everywhere. It just seems unruly to try to then create a loading zone situation where now they can park and load and unload passengers, some level of freight, as long as it is safe for them to do so.
I don't have all the codes in front of me, but I believe that might be part of the codes that are not listed here. This specifically is only for trucks. This section is specifically for trucks only.
Yeah, and this section now is going to read, loading and unloading activities are strictly prohibited in any portion of the public right-of-way designated for active vehicular traffic unless otherwise authorized by the Metropolitan government. So the other authorization would likely be creating loading zones. All loading and unloading activities must occur in the nearest designated public or private loading zone, alley, or loading dock. This requirement applies without exception, regardless of convenience or proximity to the intended destination, including instances where the public right-of-way appears more accessible and/or is located directly in front of a business or other destination. Which, happy to do a couple hundred square miles of loading zones, but that seems like a big lift. I believe.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Yes,
for the
my
record.
name is Brad Freeze, Deputy Director of the Nashville Department of Transportation. I would like to point out we are working on this bill after the bill was submitted, right? So the bill did not originate from the Nashville DOT. It originated with the council member after discussion. So we were working on a substitute, to try to make this more in alignment with what our objectives are. So that's where we are here today. It feels like there's a lot of, unhappiness with this bill, and we are trying to coordinate at this point after the bill had been written, and we submitted a substitute. So we are working hand in hand with the council member to try to get through these concerns that we had. I just want to make that clear.
I appreciate that comment. I think for the sake of time, I'm going to steal your term, this unbinding substitute, I would like to bring a motion so we can move on. So do we have any other questions or comments on the item? We have a motion.
I'll move that we recommend a one-meeting deferral and request that NDOT and/or the sponsor make revisions and bring it back to us at the next meeting.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to defer it 1 month. Yes.
Is this for the original bill or the substitute?
This is for the substitute.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions or comments, clarifications?
I can clarify the motion. We recommend deferral of both the underlying bill and the proposed substitute, and request that the council member and/or NDOT work to bring us some improved language at the next meeting for consideration.
To clarify that motion, hearing what I thought council guided us earlier in this discussion, if we defer, then essentially we lose an opportunity for.
We've already lost that opportunity.
Right, versus if we disapprove what's before us, then it does trigger a 2/3 majority.
No, we've already lost. The shot clock has expired.
So,
There you have to do that.
okay, we've confirmed that, so that,
Yeah,
This is just-
so they're going to consider it tomorrow regardless, right? I think deferring it, this allows us the opportunity to let them talk and codify and get better language around this that brings it back to us for review.
correct, but if we were to disapprove what's before us.
Yeah,
does
I
that
think
not send a
procedurally,
stronger
just a
message?
point for clarification, I think the commission needs to vote based on how they feel as it sits right now. And what happens, like your vote shouldn't be determined based on procedurally what happens after the fact. Does that make sense? So like, I think a point of clarification of what happens to this if we defer, approve, or disapprove is irrelevant.
But if we defer and staff comes back with recommendations, then it's still, where does it tie back to council? It won't, right?
Well, I mean, it
Unless
can't.
it's reintroduced at another time?
We could get into a very lengthy discussion about like the different ways that could go. Ultimately, the interpretation about the shot clock is going to be probably Margaret Darby. It sounds like it's expired. It sounds like we cannot make a binding recommendation if we wanted to today.
Correct. That I understand.
So that's why I recommended the deferral.
First and second on the deferral, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, and a deferral would provide staff an opportunity to continue the discussion. They can propose another bill if this bill doesn't make it through tomorrow or not. So it will stay with us as a discussion topic because it sounds
Right.
like it's something they're working on.
And I think it's a valuable discussion to continue to talk about. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Sorry.
It's a clarification, it's a deferral motion, right?
Deferral motion, yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. So the deferral of 1 month for this item has been voted on. For the second time, do we want to reorganize the importance of what we want to review or open discussion here? I believe you got a hard stop at 4. We got to be out of here at 4:30.
4:30.
If you have to leave, that's fine. We still have quorum. So do we have the power, can we decide what we want to go ahead and defer on 1 month and then what we want to vote on for the last 30, 40 minutes that we have in this room? Is that
Yes.
appropriate?
Chair, you have the discretion.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Hall.
Chair, I'm sorry, I also have a hard stop at 4:15.
Okay, so probably got enough time to get through one more item. Right now, we have item 6.1 remaining, 6.3 remaining, which is just a presentation, correct? And then 6.3 was some clarifications that tied down to 7.1, the smart parking, or is that unrelated?
I think that those are related. I think that's why we asked for it.
That's why we
We
asked-
asked for it
that's
to
right.
come before that, so that way everyone could kind of hear the context of why we're doing smart parking.
That's right.
So if
So
we're going
then-
to defer stuff, that should probably be the package.
So 6.4, is that unrelated to anything, or is that tied to 6.3 as well?
Yes.
6.4 is related to 7.1 as well.
Okay. So 6.3, 6.4, and 7.1 need to be packaged together. Don't think we have enough time to go through all of those, or how many slides is your presentation?
We can make it short.
We can keep it high level.
Okay. So, yeah. So it sounds like 6.1 is a safe agenda topic that we can
Get through in
talk about and get
10
out.
minutes? I don't think we can get through it in 10 minutes.
Well, we got till 6:30, 4:30.
We have one
4:15.
commissioner has to leave at 4:15, and I can stay. I would love to. I would love to go make as much of the transportation committee
Yeah.
as I can, but also
We can defer them all. This
No,
is open discussion.
I think that your recommendation was a good one of 6.1.
Okay.
I've heard this presentation. It's pretty dry stuff.
Okay. Commissioner Holler,
I'll stay through that, thank you.
Commissioner Kornick, I'm gonna request that we reorganize the agenda to where 6.3, 6.4. I guess I can just go to those items and get them deferred, legal, right? If I just wanted to defer the items that we're not gonna have enough time on and then jump to 6.1?
You can make a motion to defer all of the items.
Okay. All right. So can I get a motion to defer items 6.3, 6.4, and 7.1, and 9.1 other items, the Second Avenue presentation, 1 month?
I'll make a motion to defer for 1 month, 6.3, 6.4, 7.1, and is that 9.1?
9.1. Yep. We have a second.
Second.
Questions or comments on that motion? Clarifications? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 6.3, 6.4, 7.1, and 9.1 is deferred 1 month. Item 6.1, consideration of draft Metro Council bill regarding the proposed NDOT access management manual requested by NDOT. Ms. Hayes? Please state your name for the record. And you don't have time, well, you do have a time restriction. Not formally, but you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much for letting us present to you today. I'm Melissa Hayes, I'm with NDOT, and I'm here with Meredith King from Arcadis. We are requesting, thank you. We're requesting your recommendation for approval for our legislation for the Access Management Manual. Oh, there it goes. Maybe. I'm not sure how to use this. That's us. That's us. Do you know how to? I don't think it's on. Oh, wait. I'm not sure it's. Where do I point this? I'm not sure it's working. Okay, sorry. We'll make this quick. So we're going to talk to you today about the very high level of the manual itself and focus on the proposed legislation today. So yes, I'm project managing this project to create this manual and consolidate the code into one location. And this is just a list of all our stakeholders. We can move on through this. We can skip this. I'm sure you all know what access management is. Our goals, so reason why we created this project to consolidate access requirements was because there are 2 chapters in the Muni Code that reference access-related requirements, some of which are conflicting with each other and some of which are the same thing but different language. So it's very confusing for both Metro employees when they review and also the public when they need to know these access requirements. And also our context sensitive, the TDOT access manuals that we also reference only focus on high level roads. So we wanted to create this manual to go in more depth about an urban context and the downtown. And we want to consolidate everything into one location so it's all very clear what the requirements are and make sure the language is all cleaned up. So those are the main reasons we started this project. We also wanted to implement safety. This was one of the action items for the Vision Zero 5-year plan to adopt a context-sensitive access management policy. We can skip this. This is just the summary of our manual. We did a peer city review. We can go on. And Meredith is going to quickly talk about the standards we're updating.
Yeah, I'll do very, very high level for sake of time today. So we're updating several different standards currently in the Metro Code regarding access management. This first one I'll talk about access to access, or the spacing between 2 driveways. We are updating it for a full access driveway on an arterial boulevard to have to follow the stopping sight distance requirements so that drivers have enough time to safely perceive and stop to oncoming driveways. And then we have kind of a tiered system so that we're prioritizing more restricted access and access on lower classifications of street. So you'll see that there's lower requirements for a local street than there are for an arterial boulevard, for example. And same thing for a restricted access would have a lower spacing requirement than a full access driveway that allows all turning movements. And then for single and 2 family, the main change here is right now in the code, you have a 25-foot spacing requirement in Title 13, 30-foot in Title 17, and we are now having 30-foot for collectors and arterials, and then going down to 25 for local streets to provide flexibility for some of those smaller parcels. And then the next slide. So touching on the single-family, two-family corner clearance. The change here is we are now adding a requirement of 185 feet for any single-family, two-family lot on an arterial boulevard. Currently, there is no requirement for a spacing distance on arterials for these lots. On the next slide, for a non-single-family, two-family corner clearance, we are updating our guidance to look more like how TDOT has theirs laid out, where it varies based on the two types of roads being intersected. So again, we're prioritizing those lower functional classifications of road because those are safer to have access on. So if you had two local streets connecting, that would be a 50-foot corner clearance, whereas two arterials connecting would be 200 foot to have that extra distance for more safety. And then lastly, so I want to note that our guidance does not conflict with TDOT's guidance. Whatever the applicable access management guidance on a road is, that will be the strictest guidance will apply. So on a road that is in TDOT's jurisdiction, like a state highway, that will be the guidance that applies. So access to interchange ramps, a lot of times these are on the state highways, and we will defer to TDOT's guidance. But if it is on a road that is in NDOT's jurisdiction, we have maintained the standard that's currently in the code of 250 foot, but we do encourage that people meet the TDOT standards for access to interchange spacing. And then just a quick high level of the different other things we include in the manual. We have some considerations for multimodal access, as well as some best practices for downtown and garage design, and multiple other things that you can see in the draft manual. And then we do have an access waiver form process. Melissa will discuss this a bit more, talking about the code changes, but applicants will submit a waiver to NDOT before any official site plans are reviewed if they do need to deviate from the access standards we are proposing. And I'll pass it back to Melissa.
Okay. All right, and then we can go on to the next slide. So just a summary of the code changes. Like I said before, access-related codes are in both 13 and 17. And I already talked about how there's conflicting language in both. So we want to update the code to align with our new access manual that will consolidate everything into this one manual and document. Other things that we're adding with this code change is to update any references from Metro Public Works to NDOT, adding the access requirement waiver form process into the code, and then updating the language regarding appeals for driveways to include the access waiver form. So you can go on. So this is specific to Chapter 13. We have proposed everything that is access related to be struck and placed into the manual, so it's all in the one place along with the Chapter 17 items. These are the codes that are remaining / updated. We added access to be interchangeable term with driveways. We added director authority or NDOT director authority with the mayor's approval described, and the access management manual defined as the access requirement holder. We added in the waiver process, and then the appeals process is basically the same as it is now. Traffic and Parking Commission still, it goes through them, through you all, but we added in some language about the access waiver form being completed first, and then they can take NDOT's denial of that and appeal it to you all. And then Chapter 17, which I don't believe specifically applies to this commission, but just for your reference, there was an item in Chapter 13 regarding loading space requirements, but that's also mentioned in 17. So we just moved that over with the rest of the loading requirements in Chapter 17, since there were more in Chapter 17 about that. And then we just added another reference to the access management manual in 17 where those previous access codes were defined. This is our timeline. Our next steps are just to continue on with the legislation process. And then if you're interested, we have a project webpage. It should be updated, I believe, either at the end of today or tomorrow, and all of the documents, the manual, the draft manual, our peer city review, everything is on the webpage for more information. I also have a one-page summary of all the code, like the spacing requirements that we went over, if you're interested in that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Oh man, the QR code went away. Ms. Ms. Holler.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Thank you so much for the presentation. Very informative. I have two quick questions. The first may or may not even pertain to this manual specifically, but thinking of many places where driveways, of course, go over sidewalks, where there's heavy pedestrian usage, particularly in the downtown urban core. Is there any provision or requirement, again, it may not be part of this manual, for pedestrian safety signage or striping that part of the sidewalk?
Yeah,
where the driveway abuts the sidewalk?
Yes, we do have, so one of the chapters in this manual is specifically to downtown and multimodal considerations and designs. So we have all of those provisions specifically also for the downtown. We have extra provisions and design for garage where there's limited sight distance with exiting and entering vehicles and the pedestrians. So we've added that all in as like a standard design that should be implemented when this manual is approved.
Thank you. Will that pertain to Midtown as well?
Yes, it can be, that is specifically to garages, which aren't typically other locations, but that would be, if there's a garage in the Midtown or East Nashville, or wherever, that would be pertaining.
Other areas outside?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. And my second question, I guess it would not come to you all. It's about the actual ordinance, so that does not go to the, or would it? Yes? Okay. Just a quick clarification on the appeals process. I don't believe there was a date stipulated or time frame deadline from if a waiver is denied and there is an appeal request or an appeal application, is there a limit within the time, or is there a window of time in which that appeal must take place?
We didn't add a time limit, I don't believe. The waiver form that the applicant should be filling out if they can't meet the requirements, that needs to be done prior to them submitting any site plan, like official site plans for review by Metro reviewers. So the appeal process should also be occurring before all of that as well, before they're submitting their site plans. Because if they can't meet the requirements and both NDOT and the Traffic and Parking Commission disapprove their alternative access design, then they shouldn't be presenting that to Metro reviewers in their site plans.
Okay. So there's no time, it's kind of open?
It's not specifically outlined, I don't think.
Thank you.
So the overarching portion of this is we're cleaning up the code, taking all of the requirements out of the code, and then putting it into an access management manual that NDOT will be the final determining factor of the rules and regulations on access.
Correct. The NDOT director, yes.
And council is okay with abdicating any sort of feet and distance requirements in that sense?
Generally, yes. I mean, a big part of what's happened in the transportation space in the last few years in Nashville is we've propped up a dedicated professional Department of Transportation. And so there is always debate about, okay, well, do we want to hold some of this in the code? Do we want to, like, you'll see a substitute from Councilmember Hill regarding the fee study legislation, where Councilmember Hill wants, I believe it's some reporting, it's some check-ins. I don't remember these. I glanced at it today. We'll be discussing it shortly across downtown. But yeah, I mean, generally a lot more comfortable with having that stuff, determined administratively than I would have been 7 years ago when we had a very small team relative to today, as part of Public Works, where we now have this department with more dedicated expertise and staff and everything. So generally, yes, but yeah, not everything falls along that line.
And what does it mean in the sense of the Director of Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure with the approval of the mayor is authorized? So does the director have to bring it to the mayor to then approve any changes?
Yes.
Yes, I think this is, did you model this after the stormwater? So this is, the stormwater regulations do something very similar, where the stormwater regulations are not in Title 17 or Chapter 17, but they are actually in a manual, and the director of the Water Services Department puts those together, and, they're published and all those things. So this is kind of a practice that is being adopted so that we can, I think, let professionals make decisions and do that process as the council member was explaining.
What's the process like for the mayor to approve changes? We have a waiver to bring it here if there's issues that are a problem, but within the manual, as the manual has a recommendation for a change, and director.
I think it's also in the legislation that it would have to be published on the website, and then there's 30 days before any amendment takes effect where public comment will be invited. So there won't be changes made unilaterally if I'm reading the legislation. There will be amendments proposed. They'll be published 30 days beforehand, and then the public will be invited to comment, and then ultimately the mayor will be brought in to consider the changes, and then I think they would be implemented. Something similar happens when things happen, like we change fees. The Department of Finance is brought in to make sure they're cool with the fees. So this is, it's not an uncommon occurrence is what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah, I guess since it specifically calls out the mayor approves, I'm making sure that the mayor is aware that they are now approving or they're providing discretion to their director for changes. And it just seems like there's...
Well, the mayor's office reviews all legislation before it, so I think that this has been reviewed. So yes, I think the mayor's office is aware. And since we're kind of working on a tight timeline here, I think we have 19 minutes. To kind of bring it all into focus, I think that Ms. Hayes and Ms. King really want to draw attention to 1312-180 because that is being taken out of the code where it says that the Traffic and Parking Commission will send letters, and that's being put in the Access Management Manual. If I'm reading correctly, it's being deleted from the code and being put in the Access Management Manual, and I'll let her explain further, but I think that that's since we're working on a tight timeline here, because I know that people have to be places so that maybe our questions can be focused there.
Yes, so the letters is referring to the non-conforming driveways. We, along with the other access-related codes, which I didn't put in the slides, but the other codes that are being placed into the manual where we had changed the language to take out traffic and parking from delivering those letters to be placed on NDOT to be delivering those letters. I believe the process as it had been, I don't know if the Traffic and Parking Commission had been doing the letters previously. So we're just trying to clean up all of the language in there and make the process very clear of who is exactly doing these things, and it will make the timelines and process more efficient, quicker.
On section 5 where it says the clerk has to give notice to a change in a newspaper of general circulation within 5 days, is that something that can be cleaned up as well?
I saw that. Here we go. That was.
I believe that section is in there because there's a Metro Code provision requiring publication in a newspaper. So until that provision is amended,
Updated.
Great.
we have to follow the Metro Code.
I think the core message is as long as enough notice and things are going out, right? I think that's what matters. Any other questions? I know we're crunching on time. Ms. Holler, you got to run.
I'll wait. Oh.
Anybody else got any questions?
Good.
Comments?
I mean, I get this time-sensitive situation in the sense of like us right now, but this is the thing that we've been asking for, is to try to reduce these issues so that we could have a moment to look through these things. This is the type of thing that under any other given circumstances, I would like a month to read through it and try to understand it. You know, there's other documents that are not provided to us right now that you all have worked really hard on that I wasn't aware that they were there. I do think, you know, bringing up the point that there are things that we're trying to remove from our jurisdiction is great, but there's also stuff that's in the charter that's still available to us that we don't do, where we're supposed to hire the chief engineer and we don't do that. So, I mean, if we're trying to do that, then go for it. But that's just one piece of this. There's definitely bits and pieces of the manual that I guess I have questions on in terms of size of it, where we don't allow parking within 30 feet of an intersection, but now we're gonna allow a driveway through the manual, but it won't be our ability to discuss it. It'll be on staff with the mayor's approval. Yeah, I mean,
The 30 feet is for sight distance at a corner, so that's still in the manual. We are not changing that. The 25 feet that Meredith had mentioned, that's spacing in between two driveways. That's just to allow, if there's on-street parking, that's enough space to still allow an on-street parking space.
I believe there was something in here that said intersection spacing on local streets for single-family homes.
Oh, thank you. Summary of the space. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
So access to intersection spacing, single, two-family developments, local minimum corner clearance is 15 feet.
I believe that's in the Metro Code as well now.
Isn't our parking restrictions 30 feet?
The 30 feet is for the corner clearance. So the intersection corner to the nearest parking space.
Right, and that's the question that I'm asking is, like, we leave that space available so that way people, pedestrians especially, have the ability, and cars have the ability to see through it.
Correct.
And we're going to put potentially driveways there without a waiver process. And that is, if it's in the code in that way, that's, yes.
It's in 30 feet or more, you can have them, right?
The corner clearance in the code currently is 15 foot. It's a different thing than the corner visibility that is 30 foot. So corner clearance, 15 foot for driveway. 30
Right.
foot is for what you're speaking of.
Yeah.
But if we can.
Yeah, it's kind of, so we had discussed this too as a, with some of our group members at NDOT and other metro departments. So the corner clearance versus the corner visibility are two different things. So the corner clearance with the 30 feet, if there's a car parked there within the 30 feet, the car, you know, is so much feet tall, so much feet wide off of the curb, right? That inhibits the visibility. But a driveway, there's nothing, the driveway isn't inhibited. It's like behind the curb. It's behind that visibility triangle, if you will.
And I would think that as you were pulling out of a driveway, there would be a visibility issue. So a car is pulling through the driveway into the intersection, now causing the same type of issue that's there. I think your understanding of it, they're going to stop within their right of way before they pull out to get there, but that's not realistic for what most people do in their driveways. So that would be as you are adjusting what's in the access manual, it should probably align based on what we're trying to do within intersections and kind of keeping that space as clear as possible. I think that that's a perfect example of if a waiver is necessary, if there is no other space within their lot to do something like that. But corner lots should necessarily kind of find a way to not have that access within the intersection. I guess it's probably not something that I can add to this since we're just voting to recommend approval.
Yes, Ms. Holler.
Sure. Thank you. Just as a follow-up question to the Commissioner, is multifamily covered somewhere else?
Multifamily is considered non-single or two-family developments.
So a two-family is a multifamily?
No. So there's single family and two family, right? And then everything else falls under the non-single family, non-two family development. So multifamily would fall under that non-single.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yes.
If I may, I'd like to point out that the zoning code for to address Mr. Kornitek's concern about the corner visibility versus the required buffer for parking, the corner visibility triangle is shown as being measured from the center of the arc of the right-of-way. When we evaluate something for parking buffers, we're looking at the point of tangency or the distance from a MUTCD control device. So it's measured from a different point in the roadway than would be a measurement for the purposes of sight distance of the corner visibility triangle. So they're not exactly apples and oranges, but they're two different measurements for two different purposes.
Chair, in the interest of time, I'd just like to clarify that the commission is not approving the access management manual itself. It's rather just the provision changing, deleting section 13.12.180 and placing it in the manual so that NDOT can send the letters instead of the commission.
No, I appreciate that. With that being said, are there any other questions?
We're doing just the one section? I mean, there's a highlighted date that says during a meeting held on, insert date 2025, we voted to recommend this ordinance to the council.
I think that's just a draft and can be amended to where it says that you approved the changes to 12.180?
No, we're doing, it's deleting all of this.
I don't think that's under your authority, though.
But that's the ordinance that we're providing a recommendation on.
And I think that we can amend the ordinance because it's not filed yet to make it clear that you recommended the specific ordinance, the 180, so that it's clear. Because we can change that whereas, and you can also approve it, I think, with the amendment to the ordinance if you wanted to. You could suggest amendments, is what I mean.
I am genuinely confused on what we're going to be voting on now, because that is not what's provided to us.
The agenda item is consideration of draft Metro Council bill regarding the proposed NDOT access management manual. So we are considering this draft Metro Council bill.
In its entirety, correct?
That's a clarify.
I think the agenda should have said a portion of it.
Okay.
And so I don't think it's the entire legislation. And so I don't think I made my point very clear that I think you can approve it and ask that the ordinance be amended, the whereas clause, so that it's clear that that was taken out.
So the way it reads, it seems as though it's the whole thing, the agenda item.
And frankly, I think we could even take out that whereas clause. Because I don't think it's necessary for filing, because there are other ways to communicate to council that you approved that piece of legislation.
Could you just bring it to us after it's filed so we can have the full bill? Why?
I think there's a timing issue, so if.
And the agenda states that, as you.
Sure.
I think the timing
Mentioned
issue
here.
is, so it's going to planning, it has to go to planning, and Councilmember Parker may understand this actually better than I do, because there's this interplay between council and planning, where planning considers things, but they have pretty much an automatic 30-day deferral, but they're only having one meeting in October, November, and December. councils, and then it has to go to a public hearing at council, which only happens the first meeting of every month, if I'm correct. But council's not having a meeting in January that's the first of the month because they have a 5-week break. So considering there's like the automatic deferral at planning, the 5-week break, I think that would push this to the February council public hearing. So that's the issue.
So how should the agenda item should have read? What should it have said? What was it that we needed to review to get?
I think in an ideal world,
Yeah. We're there. I'm asking the question intentionally.
yeah, which we never live in an ideal world. I think the agenda item would have said review of proposed ordinance governing 13.12.180 or ordinance revision governing 13.12.180, I think would have been in an ideal world.
But wouldn't we have to get all of the rest of the items that are getting removed?
You mean, well, they are part of the legislation, but that isn't, that's not something that traffic and parking normally considers, right? Like, some of this is Title 17, which is planning.
Right.
Some of it is driveway stuff that has been council's purview, not your purview, right? And so what's really under your purview is the letters that are being moved into the manual, and NDOT will send the letters.
So which one is that? Because .180 is not on here.
Right, it's not in here.
13.12.180.
Because it's
We
being
haven't
deleted.
received it.
Yeah, that's all we know is it's being deleted. And then,
Yes, because it's in the manual.
So that would mean we wouldn't be voting on this at all.
So hold on. So under section 1 where it says 13.12.040, after that would have been .180? Or did y'all delete 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Section 4 says, oh yeah, that's referring to chapter 17.
So what we've been provided and what's been noticed
Sure.
is not here. I mean, sorry, what we're being asked by council to vote on. This, not Metro Council, council.
I think it's on page 33 and 34 of your packet that you were provided. I don't think it's,
But 1.80 is not, is it listed? I don't see it.
yeah, it says it's hereby deleted in its entirety in section 18.
Section 18.
Oh.
Oh, section 18.
So what was handed out is what the new is. What's in the staff report is what has been deleted.
So are you asking us to vote?
Okay, so we're
13.12?
voting on what was in the packet.
yeah, I
We're
don't
not-
see how we can say that we're not voting on the proposed legislation and just a section. There
No,
is a
the
section
agenda
of-
item should have been more specific. I
Section.
think, yes.
Goes towards us, but I mean,
But to get somewhere on the time, we got 3 minutes. Are we at a place where we can do something with this today? Is there enough clarity around what it is that we're voting on?
My question, Chair, would be, without it being properly noticed on the agenda, do we have that authority?
Yes, we can be specific in what we're voting on in our motion.
Okay, thank you.
And the request is that the commission is approving the removal of 13.12.18.
I think so.
no, but there's also,
There's a whole bunch of others.
yeah, 13.12.80 is the appeals process. 13.12.70 is the authorization for that. Right, so there are other sections of the code that are part of our purview that we're providing a recommendation on removal.
That's not what I heard.
But that's in the code.
What is in our purview to vote on today on this item? All of 13 or specific sections in 13?
I think specific sections of 1312.
Yeah, so this is, the code change summary that's up is what it will be, but we are voting on the whole bill that contains multiple sections that we have had.
Is the commission comfortable with what's on the screen? Is this the summary of what is changing with this?
Correct, yes.
I have trust that you all will make the appropriate changes based on, without us seeing a printout. Can we vote to approve it based on this screen? You gotta go.
No. It's,
I mean,
it
I just
hasn't been
don't.
publicly noticed, though.
Yeah, and I also don't understand how, if this is not going to be voted on by council within the next some amount of time, how we won't be within some 30 days to provide a up or down vote when it is filed based on the actual legislation that we can then provide.
I think NDOT's goals was just to get it done before February, but I also understand if you guys need more time and want to defer it, because I think the goal was to meet the public meeting in December, the public hearing, because there's a council member or a council meeting every month. The first one of the month is the public hearing. Am I correct, Council Member Parker?
Generally, yes, but we can, when circumstances make necessary, we can schedule non-zoning public hearings, although this might be getting a public hearing because it touches Title 17, which makes it a zoning bill, but I'm not sure. We could ask the Vice Mayor and
Yeah, I think,
Director Darby
honestly, I think
about-
it's the weird play in between council and planning, and the timing of it all because of the holidays, I think is just what's kind of thrown everything. But I also understand if you feel rushed and want to defer it.
Yes.
From my perspective, if this is what we would see again in another month, I'm comfortable. I would support what's before us
Thank
today.
you. Any other questions? I'm opening up the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed changes to 13.12 as they are on the screen.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments to the motion?
If I may, I don't think that the screen covers the change to 180. I don't see it up there.
180 is being deleted.
180 is being struck, and it says strike everything.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yep.
Any other comments? Point of clarifications? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank
Really
you so
appreciate your
much.
time.
Motion to adjourn.
Congratulations.
So moved. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.